I'll just skip back to the beginning of this slide deck. So today I'm just talking to you about consumer trends and from a UK and a global perspective. I mean, the UK is not dissimilar to many markets as far as the macro consumer trends are concerned, but then how the UK government strategy to apply AgTech, which really leads from a lot of this consumer drive. So just before I begin, I'm Handyn Craig. My role within is to work with four innovation centres, four agri-tech innovation centres in the UK, which I'll introduce to you in just a minute. I'm a specialist in agri-tech and associated investment. I come from a commercial science background, but the first part of my career was spent at home in New Zealand. Even though I'm from the UK and represent the UK, I'm from New Zealand, and I was from a sheep and beef farming family. And you know, in New Zealand, the market is really underpinned by there's no subsidies. It's consumer-led, and so understanding the consumer and being brought up in that environment was really interesting, because the farmer gets paid for what the consumer wants. So that's really a passion point for me, and also that agri-tech offers economic solutions to the sector, that it's not just a solution in search of a problem, but it's a solution that solves a problem. So I'm going to go through some consumer trends and then talk about linking technology in to support this, and how the UK government strategy was established, and then how and some of the actions out of that strategy, and then the establishment of the four innovation centres that I represent. So some of the global consumer trends, and I, just to frame this up too, I think this is really important for Vietnam, that there's opportunity to produce premium product and build a brand around premium product by harnessing technology, and Miriam mentioned that in her last part of her talk there, that building a brand that's recognised around premium product. And so it really starts with understanding consumer trends, and these are the six that I believe are the top and appear to come out in the reports around convenience and personalisation, wellness and healthfulness, environmental and sustainability, and around that kind of ethical, animal ethics part, socially conscious, and then how the connected consumer, the digital consumer. So the modern consumer is very busy, and I consider myself to be an average consumer. My wife and I, we've got a young family, and we perceive ourselves to be very busy. So convenience is very important to us, and some sort of personalisation as well. But if you look at some of the information that's coming out from reports, 28% of shoppers believe that there'll be some sort of automation in shopping in the future. And I really like that, because if I think about how technology is being applied, and Internet of Things, or IoT, that term is being thrown around a lot, but it is possible to imagine that there will be solutions installed in your house that create some sort of automatic grocery shopping order for you. And 28% of shoppers believe that that's going to be included in the future. Online shopping in the UK is one of the fastest growing purchase channels. And this next slide outlines that. And so since 2007 to 2016, sorry, this is the most recent data that I could get, the share of individuals who purchased food online rose from 11% to 29%. So there's a considerable shift in online shopping, and I know personally myself that is something that I do. And so within this is this kind of data sharing. So when we're buying online, we're logging in and we're providing a lot of information. And there's a generational shift in this in how we share data, and a lot of older consumers aren't interested in sharing data. However, the younger generation are more willing, and certainly from this report from the shoppers of the future and influencer shoppers who are young, usually larger families, and digitally connected, 56% of them said that they are willing to share data so that they could get more personalised information. One of a website which is quite interesting to have a look at is habit.com, and it's where you can actually supply your blood tests, and they give you these results and a personalised nutrition advice. So now looking at environmental and social implications. So the growing middle class around the world, and of course a strong middle class in the UK, really care about these ethical and sustainability issues around packaging, animal welfare, social impact, and then of course building that all in with traceability. 60% of under 35s say they have concern for the environment and that will grow within the next 5 to 10 years. So this is something that's really important for Vietnam to consider, and how to link in technology which supports sustainable agriculture. And just looking at some of the stats here from the environmental impact, and I don't know whether you got it in Vietnam, but there was a documentary by David Attenborough about that included the impact of plastic in the ocean. And so 74% of British grocery shoppers have become more aware in the last 12 months of the environmental impact of packaging. And so there's a very strong trend towards more sustainable packaging. Health and well-being. So when it comes to food, moving away from sort of restrictive diets, and now consumers are more interested in having healthy, nutritious food that is less processed. So 85% of shoppers are looking for that healthier food. 42% of young shoppers believe that they're going to be looking for healthier options over the next 5 to 10 years. And this is all really front of mind in the UK and globally because of government communication around obesity, and then also a growing acceptance around allergies and food intolerances. So then the impact of the digital world, and you know, information moves so quickly now, and consumers are very connected. They have an ability to access a lot of information fast, and then social media has given rise to these thought leaders, which might not necessarily have been thought leaders in the past. And then, of course, this leads into consumer analytics and then connecting the supply chain. And I put blockchain there, and I'm not a blockchain advocate by any stretch of the imagination, but some form of traceability system which has validated information. And I will talk about that a little bit more in the next slide. So in the UK, this is information from the UK just about how consumers are connected. And the number of devices. So Deloitte is saying that in the developed world, greater than 90% of adults will have a smartphone by 2023. And I would predict that that's probably going to be greater in the UK, where over the last 6 years, we've got up to 85% of adults have access to a smartphone. And furthermore, that they're using it virtually every day. I don't know, this says once a day, but I use my smartphone probably 150 times a day. So, and I'm using it, and consumers are using it to access information to assess the goods that they're buying. So then when I think about social media and the impact that it has, and this rise, I'm trained as a scientist, and so I want to go and get validated information from authors or from researchers that have credible sources. But now social media has given rise to people, populists, whose opinions really matter. And this is an example of Laura in the Kitchen please look it up. But Laura in the Kitchen, she has 3.2 million subscribers. She's a self-taught foodie or chef, culinary expert. And people watch her and they listen to her. So what she presents on social media is important. And so, if she says that something's good, then people perceive that it's good, even though she may not be a trained subject matter expert. So, of those influencer shoppers, which is the young, digitally connected, larger families, 54% of them are using blogs and social media to get more informed decisions about their food. So then, blockchain, or whatever, a traceability system. Okay, so our current supply chain is very linear, and the information within it often stays within those silos or moves linear across and there's no way of validating it. Okay, and so the supply chain of the future, and I like blockchain, but it is not a technology. It gets sold as a technology which you can just go and implement, but it's not. It's really an overarching philosophy or solution that enables validation of all of these parts of the supply chain. But put poor data in, the data can still be corrupted in a blockchain unless it's coming from a technology-led perspective. And if I think about on farm with the increase in animal sensors and farm Internet of Things, then suddenly you're collecting this information automatically and you're gaining lifetime information of animals, which can then go into the blockchain and have validated real information. And certainly, even from a certification perspective, providing certification of residuals, of chemical residuals in product, coming from a certified authority and then coming into this connected supply chain. So now looking at it from a UK perspective and how the UK are leading innovation and applying ag tech, not only in the UK, but also globally. So the government committed to an ag tech strategy, which obviously built on these global requirements, of growing global food security, a growing global population, but producing more food from less that is healthy and nutritious, with the real drivers behind it. And there were some core actions which came out of the strategy, which was firstly the establishment of an agri-tech organisation within the Department for International Trade, and that was to promote collaborative R&D and inward trade and inward investment, of ag tech companies. £90 million was invested in the development of 4 world-class centres for agricultural innovation, and I'll go into those a little bit more. Now, that $90 million, that is in addition to £400 million of annual spend on agri-food related research. And then another £70 million was dedicated to Catalyst Fund, which is basically to improve the translation of research through to industry. So the innovation centres that I mentioned received this £90 million to be invested in assets, and that formed 4 innovation centres. CL, the Centre for Innovation Excellence in Livestock; Agrimetrics, for the Big Data Centre; AgriEpi, the Precision Ag and Engineering Centre; and CHAP, the Crop Health and Protection Centre. So the centres are the link between academia and industry. They're made up of member organisations which represent commercial interests and research and development, but simply put, they're the pipeline or the conduit to access commercial solutions and concepts at R&D stage and access expertise within academic institutions. So they've invested a considerable amount of that £90 million in a range of assets, including facilities to research pigs, aquaculture, ruminant animals, poultry, indoor agriculture, plant precision, phenotyping units, and a commercial farm network. And this is what I really like. The commercial farm network is made up of just under 30 farms, and it's where you can test technology in a real-world environment. And so I just want to give you an example and it's not consumer-related, but I suppose it can be consumer-related in the sense that it's gathering information autonomously. So I suppose it does come from that perspective. But this is one of the projects that the innovation centres are involved with, is this hands-free hectare, which is the first completely autonomous cropping trial globally. It's a proof of concept of automation, but the yields that are being generated, and they have been able to increase this year on year from 5 to 6 tonnes, but really it's this proof of concept, and it's produced entirely without human intervention. And I think although some aspects of it in the early stages are rudimentary, it's learning from those challenges and moving on to the next year, and it's really interesting to see how that's progressing. But lots of data being collected from this hectare, which can then feed into consumer information. So, connecting Vietnam and the UK, there's an opportunity to move forwards with high-value premium food products, and I really believe that using technology is a core aspect to meeting those needs of the consumer to produce high-value food products. Embracing technology to increase the efficiency and those consumer products. So increasing efficiency on farm. And then the UK innovation centres have a desire to engage globally. And so I think that provides an opportunity really for Vietnamese companies, academic organisations and government to engage and build relationships in this sector. So thank you very much.